I'm making a villain protagonist game that takes influence from many other great titles, such as Kenshi, Manor Lords, Dungeon Keeper, RimWorld, Arcanum, Baldur's Gate 2, Spellforce, Overlord, Battle Brothers. I'm making the game that I want to play, and choosing the best features from many of the great games I've played in the past to give you a serious strategy game designed to satisfy that villainous itch. In this video I'm going to talk about the playable faction called Ugru in my game Dominion Master, and as well as what I like and don't like about orc-themed factions and other IP, how all that culminates with my own interpretation of orcs in my fictional 1910s time period. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings is credited with laying the modern foundation for what it is to be an orc. How they look, along with their primitive and warlike nature, are drawn from his experiences fighting in the trenches in World War I, and this is where I'll draw most of my inspiration from. Because I don't like most fantasy settings orcs. They all tend to fall into the same overused tropes. If you compare orcs from, say, Warcraft, Warhammer, and Dungeons and Dragons, they all seem to love this idea of having huge chins, green skin, bodies like the Hulk with tusks, and now this trope just seems like generic corporate fantasy slop to me.
Here you go, buddy.
It's a single-celled protein combined with synthetic aminos, vitamins, and minerals. Everything the body needs.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
I want orcs to be fun, to give you that feeling of cooking meat with the boys in the forest, getting drunk, singing songs, and maybe getting into a brawl or two.
This is good, but what is best in life?
To use correct pronouns and provide a safe space.
Wrong! Conan, what is best in life?
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
That is good. That is good.
So in the world of Dominion Master, orcs are part of a faction called the Ugru, a tribal civilization guided by a central mysterious religious figure, and they originate from the colorful and chaotic jungles of Samarath, a topic which I'll talk about in another video. However, your adventure takes place outside Samarath, on the frontiers, raiding and pillaging the edges of the Stalian Empire. Your species, referred to by humans as the Fel, is a mishmash of mutated monsters that coalesce into a smaller set of stable anatomies, which happen to be the likes of goblins, orcs, minotaurs, and so on. The vast majority of the Fel are part of the Ugru faction, and their most common anatomy is the orc and goblin, human-like in appearance but with tortured and distorted features. Most of them have skin that takes shades of grey, but a few have received extraordinary doses of astral energy during their birth, which may give their skin other colors that associate them with a particular crystallization of magic. In my setting, I wanted orcs to take influence from a number of different cultures, such as the Mongols, Turks, Native Americans, and the Aztecs, but also live alongside a big plethora of monsters from classical mythology, such as minotaurs, gorgons, and manticores. Controlling monsters is exactly what someone like
the Dark Lord Sauron
would do, but they need some overarching premise that brings them all together and makes sense. And then we have another problem. These days, orcs are assumed to be physically superior to humans, and orcs are almost at the bottom of the power hierarchy of your monsters. I don't want to do what the Warcraft games did, and make knights as strong as an ogre, or give humans a lot of magical creatures, or just solve everything with magic. So how can humans compete? Or how would they have even survived, and then become dominant in this environment of powerful and organized monsters? The truth is that in nearly every lore setting, orcs' entire lives is one big great survival test. Given their behavior, the most common cause of death for orcs would be other orcs. And if it was any other way, then they wouldn't be orcs anymore. You see where I'm going with this? My idea of orcs is very straightforward. Take their most defining characteristics, remove all the plot tools and Hollywood stuff to make them make sense, and then adopt what ought to be the natural outcomes of their civilization. So how can humans possibly compete with these dumb but sentient monsters, far stronger than any human, and capable of organizing into armies, forging their own weapons, and basically being bred for war? Do they jump on a horse? Frankly, I wouldn't bet on a horse leveling the playing field. What about other creatures that are even bigger and stronger than an orc? So how do you level the playing field? How do humans even survive? The answer is guns. But you can't use pistols to reliably kill large monsters in time before they reach you. Well, then you would just use machine guns. And if those don't work, you use bigger guns and a lot more of them. The Minion Master takes place in the 1910s, in a fictional time period in a fictional world, on the outskirts of a Russian Empire-like monarchy. People not only have rifles and cannons, machine guns, they have rudimentary planes, and even crazier things. So now that we know humans have guns and can put down a big orc or even a minotaur in one shot, how exactly do your boys compete now if they can't even get close? How do you beat guns with spears and shields?
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
And that, my friend, is where you use the terrain, night attacks, fighting in the forest, magic, trolls, and big metal shields normally too heavy for a human to lift. The next logical question is, why don't the Ugru themselves use guns? You can make gunpowder from common ingredients with a bit of chemistry and know-how, but unfortunately orcs don't have either of those, and those who do tend to live short lives in their barbaric society. They don't have all the things that you need, like a legal system or supply chains to set up a factory. Human guns are impractical for orcs to use. However, some clever goblins might have the digits small enough to fit into a trigger guard, observant enough to learn how to fire them, and lack any orcish sense of honor and dignity, dissuading themselves from cowardly human weapons. Another totally coincidental benefit of having goblins able to use guns is that they, as a weaker minion, remain relevant for the entire game. I don't like how a lot of RTS games have units that tend to lose relevance as the game goes on. In the Minion Master, goblins are your most basic and numerous unit, but they're also your only unit that can learn any combination of skills. So when you finally become
The Dark Lord Sauron.
the majority of your minions will remain swarms of orcs and goblins, instead of a handful of big monsters. I hope you enjoyed this video. The next one is a month from now, so make sure to subscribe to not miss it. Leave a comment and a thumbs up to help me find more villains. And if you want to support the game's development, you can support me on Patreon or whatever works for you. I randomly ask people on Discord about what topic to choose for the next video, so if you want to see something specific, make sure you join and let me know. I'll see you next time, the Minion Master.